time to get geeked up.
In the music world, and here on the podcast, one of the things I was really looking forward to would be getting into this next story I'm about to tell in honor of the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo, which were, of course, called off in Coronaville, like I mentioned. But I guess, and I'll replay the best of next year when it takes place in 2021. However, the SB Dunks and the days between and the Tokyo Olympics all got me thinking of my favorite tale on the golden road to unlimited devotion, or a cool Grateful Dead story, either way you want to say it. But it is the legend of the Lithuanian Skullman. And I guess all these years later, 28 years later, what is still a legendary, of course, and what the Skullman is, if you're not familiar, is, of course, an iconic Grateful Dead t-shirt, a green, red, and yellow tie-dye with a cartoon skeleton dunking a basketball. But why it's legendary is the story that I'll tell now. And I guess we'll kick it off, for all intensive purposes, in 1988 in Seoul, South Korea, with the Soviet Union defeating the United States men's basketball Olympic team in a shocking upset, handing the U.S. its second all-time loss and first in 15 years. Right. Between 88 in Seoul and 92 in Barcelona, okay, the next Summer Olympics. 4 years later, a lot would change in the world, okay? I guess somewhat randomly, you might think, anyway. But from 88 to 92, hot off the heels of, like I mentioned earlier, but the Grateful Dead's first top 10 single in 87 with Touch of Grey. The Grateful Dead, 20 years after forming, went through their real height of commercial success. Okay, I guess that's a little bit of a side note that I'll get back to later. I guess potentially more relevant in some ways would be Michael Jordan, Air Jordan, emerging as the biggest global sports culture icon since Ali. And I guess perhaps even more relevant in the real world, but Lithuania fought for its independence from Russia after 50-plus years of oppression and rule by the Red. Okay, in fact, actually 4 out of the 5 starters on the Soviet Union team that beat the United States in 1988 were from the same city, actually, in Lithuania. However, forced to play for the Soviet Union, one of the best player on the team as well, Arvydas Sabonis, was a 7'4" athletic freak who was drafted to the NBA in 1986. However, not allowed, contract controlled by the Soviet Union, not allowed to leave and compete at the highest level in the world for basketball in the NBA, costing him $1 million in what potentially could have been a legendary career, as Arvydas Sabonis, a young Arvydas Sabonis, was literally thought of as one of the great basketball prospects of all time, literally, due to his size and skill, and was not able to compete in America due to Soviet rules. In 1989, another member of the 88 Soviet team, Lithuanian Šarūnas Malinauskas, challenged Soviet policy and independently signed with the Golden State Warriors, breaking Soviet contract rules. This, moved towards, contractual independence and, freedom of employment by Šarūnas Malinauskas, kind of went hand in hand with a major scale, political and social rebellion of Lithuania from its occupiers, eventually leading to a big, political standoff in the center of Lithuania, ultimately resulting in Lithuania getting its independence from Russia, since like I said, for the first time in over 50 years, dating back to World War II, including great atrocities under Stalin and, deportment of their people to Siberia and just, a really, really harsh, oppressive rule by the communist world on the now free, independent nation of Lithuania in 1991. Right? So I guess now it's 1991 and Lithuania is free and a great basketball nation. With one of the best players, Arvydas Sabonis, still playing in Europe, especially as Lithuania, on somewhat shaky grounds as a nation, decides to, stay closer to home and not come to the NBA, whereas, like I mentioned, Šarūnas Malinauskas in 1991 is playing and having a very, successful run in the NBA. All of this, of course, leading up to the 1992 Olympic Games, where I guess another thing that changed based on the 1988 defeat of the USA by the USSR, which at that time America was playing with amateur, college basketball players, and the USSR were playing with, professional European professionals. So it was kind of like a men's versus boys situation. So for the first time, the 1992 Olympic Games would feature professional men's basketball players. Remember that Michael Jordan guy that I mentioned? Yeah, Air Jordan would be there, Bird would be there, Magic would be there. They would be called the Dream Team. And it was one of the biggest phenomenons in sports history. Really, the history of sports undisputedly regards the Dream Team as really like the absolute moment of importance of spreading the NBA and really just basketball in general as the global game. And now, basketball is just played, all over the world. It's really next to international football, as you ignorant Americans might call soccer. I, of course, call it football. But next to football, basketball, the number 2 most popular sport worldwide, with, professional leagues and, professional players in the NBA representing all sorts of, just a crazy number of countries. And a lot of the spread of the popularity can really be single-handedly traced to the craze that was the Dream Team going to Barcelona. The one problem, I guess, if you see where I'm going here, the one problem, however, for Lithuania at this point, just literally, with less than a year after gaining their independence, they're a totally, poor, still forming country in development. And they don't have any extra cash laying around to fund a trip for a basketball team to go to Barcelona and compete in the Olympics. So despite having the best players in all of Europe, and now, just recently gaining their independence, theoretically giving them the ability to represent Lithuania in the country, they're shit out of luck because they can't afford it. Now, if you're wondering why I'm talking about, Olympic basketball history here, I guess, remember that whole rebirth in popularity from the Grateful Dead that I spoke of? Well, by 1991, the Dead are peaking, literally, and are the undisputed kings of the counterculture, with major stadium tours come spring, summer, and fall. And also, the boys happen to be basketball fans. And they also happen to be the most charitable band of all time. And if you see where I'm going with this, basically, in 1991, Shrunus Malinauskas, who was playing for the Golden State Warriors, of course, in the Bay Area, where the Grateful Dead are famously from, but Shrunus and Donnie Nelson, who's the son of NBA legend Don Nelson, and the man who scouted and befriended Shrunus Malinauskas while Donnie was, working, just getting his bones in the NBA ranks as the son of a Hall of Famer. He's, doing international scouting and befriend Shrunus Malinauskas, and was pivotal in giving some legal support as Shrunus faced the Red Army trying to gain his independence of employment and play basketball, unlike Arvydas Sabonis. Okay, so Shrunus and Donnie Nelson kind of start off like a small campaign in the Bay Area in America, trying to raise some money and some awareness for the Lithuanian Olympic basketball, team and struggles that they're going for. Right. Obviously, Jerry, Bobby, and Phil, Mickey and Bill, and the whole team of the Grateful Dead obviously have their ear to the streets and immediately hop into action, inspired by what the Lithuanian people had been through in their fight for their independence and freedom, okay? And literally like something out of a cheesy 80s movie, the Grateful Dead foot the bill for the Lithuanian men's basketball team to compete in the Olympics and to compete under the Lithuanian flag. And the Grateful Dead signed a huge check and as well sent along what can be thought of as a little bit of the Grateful Dead flag, a set of tie-dye t-shirts with a skeleton dunking a basketball. His name was the Skullman, and he would accompany the team along on their journey. I guess, before their journey to Barcelona started, I guess, but Donnie Nelson and Shrunus Malinauskas attended a Grateful Dead show. Upon my research, it must have been March 24th, 1992, at the Palace in Auburn Hills, the night before a Warriors-Pistons game. And ironically enough, the show opened up with Touch of Grey, the song that very well made all of this possible, ending with the politically charged Throwing Stones into a Not Fade Away, a Wait encore, which looked like a pretty sick show. And of course, the next night, like I mentioned, coming off the bench, Shrunus Malinauskas scored 16 points in a Warriors win. His biggest memory being that all of the smoke in the arena the night before had cleared out by game time. And with this meeting, it was official. The tie-dye clad independent nation of Lithuania was on its way to the 1992 Olympic Games in Barcelona, where, of course, the biggest story would be the Dream Team and Air Jordan and Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. However, the sentimental favorites around the world would be the team in tie-dye, the other Dream Team, as they've become to be known. And I guess I should point out that that is the official title of the definitive documentary on this whole Grateful Dead legend, right? The Other Dream Team really tells more the tale like of the Lithuanian struggle in basketball than the Grateful Dead. You got to consult Long Strain Trip, the Grateful Dead biography, for more information on that. But the Other Dream Team, the story of the 1992 Lithuanian men's basketball team, is a great documentary and kind of the really the best place. I don't know if you can find it anywhere, but that is like the definitive documentary on this whole thing. Side note. Right. So the Other Dream Team was on their way to Barcelona, where they would play great and exceed expectations, ultimately making it all the way to the semifinals, where the Other Dream Team would meet the Dream Team, and lose by 50, while literally waiting to ask Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Michael Jordan for pictures afterwards. The Other Dream Team loses in the semis, however, really setting up the ultimate climax. As in the other semifinal, another great basketball nation, but Croatia, beat what was now dubbed as Unified Russia, setting up a third-place matchup for the bronze medal between the freshly free and newly independent Lithuania versus their former occupiers for over 50 years in a matchup which is truly an example of when sports is bigger than a game. Where it's been at this point a year and a half since gaining their independence. It's been 4 years since 4 Lithuanians were forced to compete for the Soviet Union and winning them gold. One of them not being allowed to leave to compete in America. The other one having to go through a political fiasco in order to get to America to play ball due to lack of freedoms imposed by the Soviets. And at the end of the day, Arvydas Sabonis and Šarūnas Malinauskas and the rest of the Other Dream Team defeated Unified Russia 82-78 to take home the bronze and establish Lithuania to the world as free, independent, and amazing at basketball. And when the newly free nation stepped to the podium to receive their medals, the Other Dream Team stood across from the Dream Team. Jordan, Magic, and Bird. Michael Jordan, actually. There's an iconic image from that Olympics of Michael Jordan receiving his gold medal, draped in the American flag. Oh, very patriotic. Michael Jordan, just recently during the Last Dance documentary, discussed how Michael Jordan was draped in that American flag so it would cover the Reebok logo that was the team sponsor, as of course Air Jordan was all Nike. But as Air Jordan wore a flag to cover up a logo, the legendary Lithuanians wore something different on their chests. They stepped to the podium in front of the world to raise the flag of Lithuania for the first time in over 50 years, wearing tie-dye, the true color of freedom. Red, green, and yellow tie-dye shorts and a T-shirt with a skeleton dunking a basketball. His name was Skullman, and to the artist, it wasn't just a cartoon skeleton slam dunking. To Greg Spears, it was a phoenix of hope, the rebirth of a new nation trying to overcome oppression, rising from the ashes, slam dunking on communism itself. Unquote. in the next couple years immediately after the Dream Team and the other Dream Team, life would change just like it had the 4 years previous, as Michael Jordan would shock the world with an early retirement, and Jerry Garcia would shock the world with an early departure. But it's cool, because Michael Jordan would come back and win 3 more championships with the Chicago Bulls. And we'd all learn that Jerry would never really go away. But the proud tradition of basketball in Lithuania would continue as well, as eventually Arvydas Sabonis would join Šarūnas Malinauskis in the NBA, being the first 2 of 12 Lithuanians to play in the NBA. Today, there are 3. One of them is really good, an all-star caliber small forward for the Indiana Pacers, Domantas Sabonis, Arvydas' son. He was born in Portland, Oregon in 1996, an American citizen whose life only knows of a free Lithuania. But much like America, where the number one sport is not football, in Lithuania, the number one sport is basketball. A proud cultural tradition predating the other Dream Team that by now has seen top 5 picks and NBA champions, 2 more bronze medals. While the dead took it a little further, Phil found some friends, Bobby got some company. There's been cover bands, archival releases, webcasts, sneaker collaborations, and in the words of Bobby, the music never stopped. And the Skullman, he's doing cool too, being the only cartoon immortalized in the James Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame.
Ooh, baby, it's time to get geeked up.